Hey guys, Rob Novell here. Hey, it's an honor to come and share with you for a little bit. We are doing this series on walking in the Spirit, and Pastor has asked me to speak this evening on two that we find in the passage there in verses 22 and 23, goodness and faithfulness. And I'm just excited to be able to take a few minutes and share these with you this evening. You know, I love this passage in Galatians 5 through, or in Galatians chapter 5, starting at verse 15. And let me pull this up. I want to read this here. Here at the beginning, it says, if you bite and devour each other, watch out or you'll be destroyed by each other. So I say, walk in the Spirit, and you will not gratify the desires of the flesh. For the flesh desires what is contrary to the Spirit, and the Spirit what is contrary to the flesh. They are in conflict with each other, so that you are not to do whatever you want. But if you are led by the Spirit, that's the key part, you are not under the law. So in this passage, we learn about all of the fruits of the Spirit. And I remember, I remember my dad just instilling in me that, you know, Robbie, if you want to have friends, be friendly. If you want people to treat you right, treat them right. If you want people to respect you, respect them. If you want people to honor you, honor them. And man, I live by those principles because, man, my dad just really helped me to see and understand. And we see right here at the beginning. Let me read 15 again. I'm reading out of the NIV, and it says, once again, hang on, where did it go? If you bite and devour each other, watch out or you will be destroyed by each other. You know, there's enough conflict. I'm a non-conflict person. I'm anti-drama. I just don't like it. I don't like being caught up in it. Don't like being part of it. Don't like receiving it. Don't like giving it. I just don't want anything to do with it. So, you know, I truly believe if we do walk in these areas of the fruits of the Spirit and we honor God with our walking in them, then he's going to help share those same words and those same traits with us. We're talking goodness. You know, I can't help but think of a couple things when we get to this one, to the word goodness. You know, in some translations, it talks about your giving or your generosity. And once again, man, my dad patterned that for me. He would tell me, Robbie, you can't outgive God. You can try and you can try and you can try, but you're not going to outgive God. What's the word says? God loves a cheerful giver. So, you know, being good and goodness, I think walking in that is where we can help our brother. Instead of trying to devour them, we can help them. We can encourage them. We can give of our time. We can give of our talents. We can give of our resources. We can give of our finances. There's multiple ways that you give, and you give back to another individual. So the other thing that I think of, and it's just, I mean, how can you not? Over and over, our Bible talks of the goodness of God. We write songs about, you know, he's a good, good father. I sing of the goodness of God. I mean, for decades, we have written songs about this very word, the goodness of God. And man, again, when I think of so many times in my life where he has showed up and showed out on my behalf and showed me this very, very word, this very thing, his goodness. You know, there's so many times I didn't deserve it, you all, and I know you've been there as well. But man, he's a good God. I love this verse, and I want to read this to you out of Romans. It says, since we have gifts that differ according to the grace given to us, let us exercise them. If prophecy, then in proportion to the faith. If ministry, in ministry. If one is a teacher, in teaching. If one exhorts, in exhortation. And if one contributes, do it in generosity. So, you know, I think goodness and giving of our, I believe it this way, you all. I believe that God gives us talents. He gives us unique skill sets. And Those are his gift to us. And then what we do with those in return are our gifts back to him. And so in everything I want to do, I want to honor him with goodness. I want him to look at me and say, well done, my son, my good and faithful servant. And, I think, and we're leading into here in a minute, into goodness and faithfulness. I think if we do our best to try to walk in the fruits of the spirit, I think we're being obedient, we're being faithful. It says in Isaiah, I love the scripture, if you're obedient, you'll eat from the best of the land. God's going to honor that. But it's hard. It's hard. We just read a while ago in verse 15 about the flesh. And that's our battle we face each day. When I wake up every day, it's just kind of a little thing that I do in the first minute or so that I'm aware that I'm awake. I'm not a great morning person, but within the first little bit of realizing, okay, here we go. This is a day. We got to walk this through. We got to see this through. Man, I'm quoting, his grace is sufficient over this day. I speak those words over my day, because you know what? The grace that sustained me yesterday was great, but today's a whole new day. And when we wake up, we start fighting this stuff right here, the flesh. Man, it's so easy these days to get on social media and read something, and you know what? We don't agree with it. So all of a sudden, we tend to start writing people off, cutting people off, canceling them, the whole cancel culture that we see in society. If things don't line up the way I believe, then that person's bad. And that's not true. Man, that's spiritual warfare, you all. That's our flesh. That's where we just have to keep speaking the goodness of God over our lives. We have to keep being faithful and saying, you know what, God, your grace is sufficient for this day. It's that grace that will get you through situations like that, where things don't make sense. The math, God's math is very confusing. You hear about old math and they're trying to teach a new way to do things in school. Man, it doesn't matter. There's one formula with the math that makes sense, and that's God's. It may not make sense to us at the time. When we're trying to add this and add that, and he's trying to subtract here and divide this way, and we got to carry the one and draw that line and move this number over. It might be hard in the moment for us to understand, but God's math at the end of the day is the only math that is simply going to add up. It just truly is. So being faithful, there's so many ways to that we apply faithfulness to our life. Not only in our daily walk, that's obviously the most important thing, is that we are faithful to answer the call that we took when we said, you know what, Lord, come into my life. I make you Lord and Savior over my life. I turn from my old ways and begin a new walk with you. We've got to be faithful to that covenant, to that commitment, to that promise that we made the Lord. And, I'll be the first to admit there are days I stumble and trip and fall, face plant hard. But you know what? That's where speaking, God's grace for this day is sufficient. And, Father, forgive me. I wasn't faithful maybe in this area or that. But you know what? We move on. We get up. It's not how many times we fall. It's how many times we get up and keep moving forward for God and with God. And I believe we've got to be faithful in our gifts as well. There's been seasons in my life where one in particular, and you know what? God literally took me to the woodshed over it. We got to be faithful in the gifts God gives us. If he's giving you a gift and you're setting and not using it, you're not being faithful in that area in your life. And you may not know what that gifting is, but you probably do. And there's times that we begin to make excuses. We say, you know what, this person's doing that, or that person, or I haven't had a chance. No one's asked me. I mean, we can make excuse after excuse after excuse. But you know what, at the end of the day, we've got to honor those skill sets and the talents that God's given us. We've got to be faithful with them. I believe this way, and music, you can kind of see here in the background. Music's the first call in my life. I grew up in a musical home, and my father had a doctorate degree in music, and music wasn't an option. in our home. And it was just so that it was a call on my life. So as he was my dad was teaching me and training me growing up, I mean, it was easy to dig in and spend the time practicing and investing my time into music, because it was something that was a passion inside of me. It was something that I truly wanted to do because it was a call in my life. And again, there's been seasons in my life with the music where maybe I didn't answer or do something that God had called me to do for various reasons. But at the end of the day, it was simply Rob's excuse as to why I wasn't walking that way. So be faithful with what God's called you to do. Be good, be goodness, operate in goodness, be generous, whether it's through your time or your efforts or your talents or your money. Be faithful and good and generous in your giftings and the areas of the fruits of the Spirit. Man, I want to share with you, these aren't real long segments here, and so I'm not going to be much longer, but I just want to share with you a story where I saw God's faithfulness. I saw His goodness extended towards Rob and towards my life just a couple short years ago. And so we're going to rewind a little bit back to 2020. And again, if you don't know me and my background, grew up in a musical home. My father, again, had a doctorate degree in music, but it was a ministry home as well. And for 58 years, my dad ran a summer Christian music school called the Charlestonville School of Music. It would be a camp that would started out meeting 3 weeks out of each summer, and went to 2 over the years. And it just, within the last 20 years, it's just been a 1-week camp each summer. A couple times a year, we would go and do some weekend schools at various places across the country. But my dad ran that for 58 years. And I started working with him and teaching in the school with him when I was 17. And then very soon after that, well, let's just back up maybe the last decade or so, my dad and I were running things together. And I was directing the school for him. And it was a business venture along with our recording studio that I got to work side by side with my dad. And he was my hero. He was my mentor. He was my business partner. And in 2020, we lost my dad. Looking back, it was January 17th. It was 17 days into that horrible year that we all experienced. We all went through the same storm in 2020. We were literally just in different boats. Some of us had different things happen, but we all were facing a crazy, crazy year. So my dad passed away January 17th. And as hard as that hit me, I began to plan ways that when the July rolled around and we would do the school that summer, ways that we could honor Dad and his legacy and what he had built. And now all of a sudden I found myself in the driver's seat, the keys handed to me, and now this is all on me. And I had to move us forward and wanted to do so in ways of honoring Dad. So March 27th of 20, I get a email of all things from the university. We hold the school at Murray State University in Murray, Kentucky. I get an email from them, and they are canceling all summer activities due to COVID. And I'm like, this is not good. This is not good. So I went to bed that night angry, upset, confused, hurt, still grieving over my dad. But you know what? There wasn't a lot of generosity. There wasn't a lot of goodness. There was not a lot of faithfulness in Rob's attitude that night. I went to bed, woke up the next morning, got a phone call. It was my brother, Jeff Stice. 40 years we did life together, and he became a big brother to me, and would be somebody that God could use to speak into my life personally, spiritually, musically. We did things together musically for decades. And Jeff, he just randomly called, and I told him what had happened the day before. And he was a type of relationship, when the phone would ring, that I could vent to him. I could let him know where I was and what was going on, and maybe in that time frame of my week or day or month or year. And he would listen. So I vented, and everything negative that could come out of my mouth came out. And man, I got some big brother tough love from him that day. And he told me to literally to dry it up And so what? They canceled you. Find a new location. So I moved forward. Long story short, I did. I found us a new location, and we moved forward, planning everything out for our school in July. I get 10 days before the camp in July, and I lost 33 students and 3 staff members, all COVID related, various reasons, but all COVID related. And it got me to thinking, you know what, it doesn't look like we're gonna to be able to do a school. But again, quitting was not an option. I wanted to honor my dad, wanted to honor my earthly father. More importantly, I wanted to honor my heavenly father. So we moved on. And what we did in 10 days, we built an online school. We had 86 courses, 66 video classes, and 20 live interactive sessions. We moved forward. We had about 50 part of the school that week, and it was great. It worked. We had 2 glitches all week. It was amazing how God planned it and put it and pulled it all together. So we move on from that, and about a month later, I was out on a ministry trip, and I got a phone call. I looked down. It's a friend of mine. Obviously, he stored his name and number were stored in my phone. So I recognized and answered the call, but it was a friend that we didn't talk, a whole lot. So I answered the call, and he's like, man, Robbie, I want to congratulate you on pushing through and having your school this year. He said, I know it honored your dad, and I know that there was some things there. He said, but man, I believe it speaks a little higher of you than maybe you're wanting to even give yourself credit for. And he's in Nashville. He runs the largest Christian artist media team in Nashville, Godsey Media there in Nashville. Works with all kinds of artists in Christian music. And he said, well, you're going to be in town again. And I was going to be there in a couple of weeks. And I told him, he said, well, let's have lunch. So we had lunch. And long story short, at that lunch table, he said, you know what? I do believe that you tapped into something that I think we could look at doing some more and doing some joint things together. So we moved forward. We started doing some live events in 21 together online. In February of 21, we had 235 students, part of a week-long Christian music seminar that we did online. And we began to see growth in our summer camp, to the extent, I'm trying to wrap this up, that in 21, we sold out. The facility that we had only had so many rooms. Didn't mean we had 500 students, but we had 117, because at 117, we ran out of beds. We ran out of place to give people a place to stay. So we sold out, and then went on, that was in July, went on in October to do another week-long online school, like we had to do in 21 or in 20, but also because we had sold out our in-person school. It gave us the opportunity. We'd already done it. We'd already built the school. It was there. We knew how to do that. So we ended up having 2 schools in 21. 22, we sat here July. We're still a couple months away, but we're on record pace. We have more students registered now than we have ever had this time of year. And this is fixing to be the largest school that we've ever had. It's called the Charles Novell School of Music. It's named after my father. And somebody said, are you going to change the name of this? Why would I do that? 2 reasons. My dad built it. I'm trying to honor him. Number 2, I'm legally Charles Robert Novell II. I go by my middle name, Rob. So it's my name. So why change it? So here's all of that to say this. I just want to share with you, when you're faithful and obedient to walk out what God's called you to do, man, he's going to show up and he's going to pour out his goodness upon your efforts in such a way. What do we say every Sunday when we receive the offering? Abundantly, right? We serve a God of abundance. He's going to pour out such a blessing that there's not enough room to receive it. Where I'm stamping sold out across our school last year, that's our God of abundance. And all it was this. I was ready to throw the towel in and give up March 27th of 2020. God said no. A year that really probably should have done me in, losing my dad, losing our place to have our school with COVID. We pushed through, going online with the school. God told me in 2020, a couple things. We had to find new ways to do the same old thing. That's what we did. He provided. What did he do? What do you do for Abraham on that mountain? He provided that ram coming up the other side. As long as we don't quit, as long as we're faithful and we push through and we're obedient, we're going to see the goodness of God pour down upon our lives in such a way that there's not enough room for us to receive it. So just want to share that with you to encourage you. This has been a great series that we're doing. It continues past this one. So dig into this in your own personal time. It's one thing to listen to this stuff, but if you don't apply it, man, at the end of the day, it simply means nothing. So I just want to encourage you, spend some time in your word, digging in and studying these, listen and glean from these midweeks that you're getting. But at the same time, you get into your word, you get into your time of the fruits of the Spirit. Let God speak to you the way that He needs to speak to you. Man, thank you for this time. I love getting to share. Don't get to do it that often. So I love the opportunity to come and share to Hope and Life. We love you guys, and we will see you on Sunday. All right. Be blessed.